Hi and welcome to today's Yellowfin training webinar. We run these training webinars once a month and we try and concentrate on a particular aspect or topic within the software and they really are designed as a how-to. So we encourage as much user interaction as possible through the session. Now, at the moment, all attendees have been muted, so if you do have any questions, please just type them in the question box on the right-hand side of your screen, and I'll try and answer those periodically. And feel free to ask as many as you like. I may leave them to the end of the session, or I may get to them during the session if they're relevant at the time. Okay, so today we're going to be having a look at Storyboard, and it's really designed as an introduction into it. So if you've already used Storyboard, you might pick up a couple of things along the way, but it really is designed for people that probably haven't used it before. So what is Storyboard? So within Yellowfin, we've built in an extra presentation layer. So previously, our presentation layer was really either individual reports or the dashboard. And now we've built in Storyboard. So let me just open up this sample storyboard we have here. And what you'll notice is that it's a little presentation. So it's a set of slides. And the really nice thing about Storyboard is that you can actually incorporate live, clickable, interactive reporting content within the slides. And a really nice use of that, it's not the only one, but a really nice use of that is that you may have, say, a monthly or an annual or biannual meeting, and you may have to include a whole lot of charting and tabular reports for figures on how, particular departments are going or things like that. And what's really nice is you can create the presentation once and then you can reuse it because the reports are live. So whenever you access the storyboard, they automatically refresh depending on the filters you've applied. So you can restrict your reports to be, say, a particular month, or you can let them update periodically. All right, so at the moment we're examining a little sample storyboard that we have that comes with our tutorial content, and it's a little introduction. It was an introduction to Yellowfin 7, and what you'll notice is we have the slide in the middle and we have a few different ways to navigate. So the first way is using these little arrows here. The second way is using the arrow keys on your keyboard. Or if you're viewing via an iPad, you can swipe. The third is using the table of contents. Now, the table of contents is an optional item, but if you choose to include it in your presentation, all of the slides' headings will be pulled into it and you'll be able to access each one. So we could jump ahead and it'll navigate straight there. The last piece of navigation is this slider bar at the bottom here. So I can just drag this and move through my presentation. Okay, so that's how to navigate. When you're viewing a storyboard, so say you're in a meeting and there's been a storyboard created so that it can be used in the meeting, and maybe you have an iPad sitting in front of you and you want to view it on your iPad rather than the projector or the TV screen. What you can do is actually make comments or notes while you're viewing the presentation, and they attach themselves to individual slides. So for example, if I notice there is an issue on this particular slide, or I think, oh, I really should talk to John about that after the meeting, you can put a note in here, talk to John. Okay, and save it. So what happens is you get this little flag here, and then when you revisit the storyboard, you can access that note. And once you've completed whatever the task was, you can just delete it. Now, notes are just personal to your individual user, so don't worry about clogging up the system with all of your notes you don't want anyone else to see. That's fine, you can type away. The comments, on the other hand, are collaborative, so they're between other users, depending on the security you apply. Okay, so while you navigate through, you'll also get to slides that have interactive reports. And what you'll find is you can just interact with them like you would on the dashboard. So this is a drill down report. So I can drill and it just behaves the same as it would on the dash. Okay. We also have filtered reports. So if I look at this particular report, I'll notice this little tab on the left here has actually changed to a blue. And that's to draw my attention. So it's letting me know there's something there. And what you'll notice is there's a range of filters that I can apply. So let me just change my gender because I'm in charge of female customers. So I'll just apply that filter and you'll see the restriction got applied there. So it's very similar to interacting with the dashboard when it comes to report interactions. Now, as we navigate through the storyboard, we may also want to make changes to it. So we can edit, and from here you have some relatively standard Yellowfin edit options. So you can edit the current version. You can create a new version which will be sort of referenced, or you can create a duplicate copy. And if you're new to Storyboard, we recommend, like with all of the other types of content in Yellowfin, that you try copying the storyboard before you make changes. Because what this does is it creates a separate storyboard that you can adjust and break and change and edit as much as you like without affecting the original. And it can be your personal copy of that. So it's a really good way to learn. And finally, if I wanted to, I could delete this. So say this was my copy, I could delete it. We can also share a storyboard, and it's very similar to how we would share a report. So we can distribute it to a user, and we can email it out, and we can send that as a PDF. I could also post this particular storyboard on my timeline or within a discussion, and that's another way to share it with others. So it's a really useful way to do it in actuality. And finally, we can export, and this is much like exporting a report. We export to PDF for storyboards, and you can choose to include commentary. So if there's been a nice discussion on some of the slides between a few users, you can export those with your PDF. Okay, so when we have a look at our storyboard, what you'll notice is we have some different color schemes. So as I move through this storyboard, this section is green, and this set of slides are blue. And the reason we allow that color manipulation and the styling change is so that we can group certain slides together for a particular purpose or topic. So in the scenario of that monthly, annual board meeting or something, or what you can do is create a section for each perhaps department or group or team, and they can have their own color scheme just to separate that out. We also find within organizations that are reporting on their data, they may have colors associated with categories. So they may have colors associated with various types of products or various teams and things like that. So, for example, in the scenario of perhaps a university, you'll often find that different departments within a university will have different colors. So arts might have green, medical might have blue, IT might have purple, things like that. Okay, so let's go back to the start of the storyboard and really get into the pieces. So when you're creating a storyboard, a nice way to think of it is it's kind of like a book in the sections that it has. So initially, it has a cover. So this is our cover or title slide. And it's really just used to tell you what the storyboard contains and to start things off. So from there, you have the option to have a table of contents. So much like a book, some do, some don't. You can choose to leave this out if you like. From there, we have sections which are equivalent to a book's chapters. And within each section, we actually have a mini title slide. So you'll see here we introduce the section. So we tell our audience, okay, what is this really about? So in this scenario, we're examining the pieces of Yellowfin, and then we move on to different areas or aspects. In your scenario, it might be different departments. So this might be your HR department. Anything that will introduce the topic. From there, we pick a colour scheme. So we've gone with a green. And as we move through into what we call our content slides, we start to introduce things like text. So our bullet points, our major notes and things like that. And we also introduce things like images, reports, and videos. So that's what we call our rich content. So this particular slide here is a rich content slide. So it just contains an image. And that's an image we uploaded into the system. So we created it and uploaded it. This particular slide is what we call, it's actually a combination of a rich content and text. So you'll see on the left, we've entered our own text. And on the right, we have a piece of rich content, which is an image in this scenario. And you'll see we use that quite a bit. And you can change the layout if you need to. So as we move through, we've gone through two sections. So we had a green and a blue. Now we're in orange. And what you'll notice here is we actually have little links at the bottom, and they're much like footnotes. So think of these as footnotes. We call them associated content. So our main slides are content, and we have associated content down the bottom. And what these do is take you out of the main stream and down into little footnote slides. So these supply additional information that you may not necessarily need to show during the main presentation, but might be useful for people viewing the storyboard after the fact to explore and get a little bit more info. Or possibly, this might be something that you would introduce in the presentation, but people would come back to for more detail. So they're really reference slides. And they have slightly different navigation. So let's just go back up. So if we're navigating, normally we're swiping left or right, or we're using our arrows. And to access these, we actually go down. So if we're using our keyboard or swiping, we need to swipe down. And then within these footnote slides, we can move across. So you'll see these little dots at the bottom, and we just navigate through there. Just close that. And we go back up into the main stream. Okay, so the main stream is horizontal, and then our footnotes are below, so they're vertical. Okay, so that's a brief introduction into what Storyboard looks like and how you interact with it. The next thing we're going to do is explore creating a storyboard. So what I'm going to do is close this storyboard here. And to begin the process, what I want to do is click on Create, and we go to Storyboard. So this is our initial process. So what we start out with is a little template, and this is going to create the initial bones of our storyboard. So the title and subtitle are used on that title slide. So the cover of our book, and the description is not displayed in the storyboard, but it's used when you're browsing content on the browse page, and it just gives your users a little bit more information about what's in there. So this might be my monthly sales report, sales storyboard. Okay, so there's my title and subtitle. There's my description. And finally, I pick a theme. So you might be thinking, okay, what's the theme? It's kind of like a template for the styling. So when we were looking at our presentation before, we had sections that were green, sections that were blue and orange and things like that. A theme is where you define the colors and the text and the font and the placement. So we'll just select a theme here and we'll save. Okay, so that's going to create our storyboard. So you can see we have our title slide now. And what you'll notice is it already has a background image. Now, this has actually come through from our theme. So all of the background styling and images come through from that theme. Now, if I want to, I can hover over and actually change my image. So I can scroll through and find another image. And I can edit my slide, okay? The next thing I'm going to do is create a new slide. So I'm just going to click on Slide, go to New, and now you can see I have my options here. So we started with our title slide, and what I'm going to do is actually introduce a table of contents, and we'll just have a look at see how that works. So we'll create that. And again, it's been styled by my theme, and it's looking pretty empty. So what happens with a table of contents is that it actually builds itself as you progressively add more slides to your storyboard. So don't worry about it being empty now. You don't actually have to do anything to this slide. It'll do it itself. So now what we're going to do is add some more content. And to do that, we actually need to start a section. So much like you can't, sort of start reading in a book without starting a chapter. So I'm going to select a section, and we'll call this toy sales. Okay, so we might be selling lots of different products, and one of our product categories might be toys. And so what I can do here is I can provide a title and a subtitle for my slide, and I can also select a color. So I'll go through and select a color, but I might actually choose this scenario doesn't actually need a subtitle, so we'll create that. Okay, so again, we've created our slide, and it's known, okay, the font needs to be green, this image needs to be here, the text needs to start exactly there. That's all from our theme. So we're going to start adding real content now. So we've put in our titles. Now we're going to add a content slide. And you'll see here, we have a few different types of slide that we can select. So the first has the ability to contain that rich content, so that's the image, the video, or the report, and it also has the ability to contain text. The second type purely contains that rich content. The third is text only, and these last two types are special. So a quote purely contains text, and it has a space for you to enter a title for the slide, which is used in the navigation. It also lets you enter the quote text and attribute it to whoever said the quote or provided the quote. The image slide allows for a title and a subtitle, and then it allows for you to select an image file that you want to display as the full size of the slide. So we'll go with content to start and then move through. So there's my slide. So I'm just going to edit some text. Okay, so there's my text. I can increase the font size and things like that. I can also add my rich content. So if I want to select a report, I just click on this button, and what it will do is show me a list of reports. I can select an image, and I can search for an image. Now, if I haven't added the image to my system yet, I can click Add and Upload. And finally, I can add a video, and this accepts YouTube and Vimeo URLs. So you just put the link in here and it will load the video. But I'm going to go with a report for now. And we might go with this report here. So I just drag that into the area and that's going to load. It's kind of like dragging a report into the dashboard. And from there, I can actually change the layout of my slide a little bit. So you'll see I have these two sections. I can resize those if I want. So I might make that a little bit smaller. I can also reposition them by dragging this text one. So I can put that at the top, or I can put it at the left, to the left I should say, or I can put it at the bottom. But we might put it back where we had it. Just add some space in there. Okay, so there's my slide. Now, if I wanted to add a footnote slide, I would click on Associated Content and select my type of slide. So I'll select a slide. And we'll leave some text. We'll select a chart. And what you'll notice with this particular chart is there's a live report available, but there's also, you can select from bookmarks or snapshots. So if you've created bookmarks or snapshots on a report, you can actually reuse those within the storyboard. So if you're not familiar with those concepts, a bookmark is basically a filter preset. So say you've got a year and a demographic filter on your report. You could create a preset that says, okay, when I see this report, always show me 2015 and sport, because I'm in control of the sport demographic. So that would be a bookmark. And then whenever this storyboard is viewed, this particular report will be filtered by that bookmark. Now, a snapshot is when we take the results of a report and keep them. And so they could be historical. So what we do is we look at a report in a point of time and we store those results. So we could take a snapshot of a report, say at the end of the month, and we could keep those results and return them now. But we'll just go with the live report for now. And we might actually make it quite large. Okay, so there's my slide. So I just click close. And now you'll see I have my little associated content. Now that will fill the whole slide width when we activate this storyboard. So now I'm just going to add a new section. So we'll go with clothing. And we'll pick a color. So now I'm going to add a text-only slide this time. Okay, so there's my text. Now obviously we can enter more text than that, but this is just an example. And from there I might choose another. So maybe we want a quote from a customer. So we'll put this in and we'll put customer quote. Okay, so what we've done here is we've entered a title, and this is displayed on the table of contents as well as the slider bar across the bottom of the storyboard. We also included the quote text, and finally we attributed that quote to whoever said it. So we add that. And you'll see this slide looks a little bit different. Again, that's based on how the theme was designed. And now we can continue. So if we want, we can continue adding slides. We can also go into Storyboard Settings. So what I'm going to do is just go into the settings and we can go through what we have here. So the first thing we need to do is upload a thumbnail for this particular storyboard. So this is the one that will be displayed on the browse page so that the user finds it easy to select. So I'm going to use this image here. You would upload your own and we'll just save that. So now we'll go into the theme, and from here you could select a different theme if you needed to. Now note that when you change your theme, you'll have to go to each section slide. So remember we had one for toys and one for clothes, and you'll have to select a color again because themes can have different numbers of colors, so you'll just have to pick those. From here we can go and adjust our global filters. So what you'll actually see here is we've got two reports, and one of them actually has some filters. So if we go to this athlete demographic, it has filters. So much the same way that we would link analytic filters on the dashboard, we can do that here. So we can say, okay, I'm going to apply my year and demographic filters to this demographic breakdown. And we'll just select a filter. Okay, I don't have an equivalent one there. And no, I don't have an equivalent one there, so I can't. But if my other report did have filters, we could apply those. Okay, so we'll just disable them. We can also choose to refresh data. So if we've included snapshots, we can periodically refresh that data. And finally, access. At the moment, this storyboard is private, so that just means it belongs to me and no one else can see it. If I make it public, other users can start seeing it, but I'll have to add them to this list in order to allow them to edit the storyboard. Okay, so we'll close those, and what we're going to do now is actually change to present mode. So this allows us to activate the storyboard. So much like with our reports and our dashboards, we need to provide a name and description, which we've already done in the initial setup. And we specify our folder structure. We can also tag this if we like. And finally, I'll just activate. Okay, so there's my storyboard. I can also add it to my favorites if I like. And what we're going to do now is just go through and have a look. So you can see our table of contents has been populated. And if I continue through, there I've got my reports. We've got our associated content. And our quote slide. Now, obviously, you can build as many sections as you require. And if you run out of colors, you can just start reusing those. So the next thing we'll have a look at is actually designing the theme. Now, we won't spend too much time on that, but we'll just give you an idea of how we go about that. So we'll just leave this storyboard now. And you'll require administration access to get to the themes area. So if you don't have it, you may need to contact your administrator to get it. So we'll just go to admin and go to the console. And we scroll down to storyboard themes. Okay, so I have 5 themes in my system. I'm just going to go into one of them. And what you'll notice here is on the left, we have various options that we can set. And on the right, we're going to preview our slides. So if I go to my title slide, for example, you can see we've provided an image here for the background. So we just uploaded that and set it. And we provided a color for our title and a subtitle color. So I could change this if I wanted to. I could make it purple. And you can see we get that instant preview. But I'll just go back to my, actually that's the wrong one. I'll just go back to my gray. So there's our title slide. Next, we have our table of contents, and again, it just contains all the pieces we need. So it goes through and it gives me all the possible options for my font formatting and colors. And then we have our associated content. And again, we've provided the colors. Now, what you'll notice is that some of these options have not been filled in, and that's fine. The idea of a theme is to style your storyboard however you need to. So what we've done is we've included heaps and heaps of options, and you, generally speaking, wouldn't use all of those options together. So just pick the options that you think you need, and you can just leave everything else blank. So we've given you sort of more than you need, and then you can work with that. All right, so then we've looked at our three main types of slides, so our title, table of contents, and associated content. And the reason these are sitting here at the top is that they don't actually fall into sections. So they sit out on their own, and we want them to have different color schemes to let the user know that they're kind of outside of a section or a chapter, if you're thinking of it like a book. So from there, we actually have our sections. So if we go down the bottom, if we have a look at one of our sections, a section is where you define the color and the images. So if you go down, you can see we've got all of our color and image options for all of the possible pieces of text on our slides. So we can preview each of the different types of slide and just make sure they work how we expect them to. Okay. And then finally, we have our layout options. So we have formatting for text and formatting for positioning. So if I go to my title slide, this is where I defined my fonts. Same for all the content and things like that. And if I go to my page layout, this is where I defined exactly where they're sitting. Now, don't worry if you're not too familiar with these options. They're based on CSS styling, so it's a way of styling all web pages and things like that. So if you're not super familiar with them, there'll be someone that is. So one of your media people that does styling and branding, or perhaps one of your development or tech people. But otherwise, you can just play around with it and get to know what's going to happen. So you can see if I move that to 100, okay, we're 100 pixels from the top rather than 2, and so on. So I'm just going to go back to my content slide because I want to point something out here. Now, what we've actually done here is we've overlapped the position of the titles, the subtitles text, and our first line of text. So if I go to that, you can see what's happening here. So you can see our subtitle text. I'll just move it so that you can see it move. You can see this text is actually overlapping with our content. So our content starts at the same point. And the reason we did that is that we found in this particular storyboard, we often didn't use the subtitle text. So what we did was we allowed our main panel, so the panel that contains text and reports, to be a little bit higher on the page so that we could maximize the amount of room we use. And if we do use that subtitle text, we can simply add an extra line at the top of our main text that's blank, just to push that down. So we can just hit enter or return. Okay, so that's how you create a theme. And if you look at our wiki, there's heaps of examples. But also, if you're finding the idea of a theme a little bit daunting, if you go to the Yellowfin website, we actually have some themes that you can download to start with. So if you go to the marketplace and you access the storyboard theme, so we'll go to our storyboard theme section. We actually have a few presets here, and what you can do is download one or a couple of those, load them into your system, and then you can adjust them as you need. So we often find that they're a nice starting point for people if they've never created a theme before. So you just download an XML file, which is a Yellowfin export file, and you just go into administration and you just import that storyboard theme in. Okay, so that's the end of our presentation today. If you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, thank you very much for attending, and hopefully we'll see you in future sessions.